Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about understanding and overcoming jealousy.
And this is a topic I don't think we've covered on
We haven't
286 episodes. Maybe little remarks here and there, but can't recall a specific episode on this. And it came from us noticing a theme with several questions on our Instagram Q&A, and a theme, whether it had to do with in-laws or a coworker or a friend, a theme of jealousy. But I love the way that you started this off. It was hilarious. So why don't you go into the jellyfish?
Yeah, you did a story about this. Well, first, we need to jump into what is jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I thought about going into this, our baby, Sky, has these emotion cards, which is called Little Otter Emotions cards.
They are so cute. They are for babies, but really I think they're better for adults because adults need these.
I think they're great. They explain a range, maybe even like 60 different emotions, and how to talk about them and express them as a child with a parent. So I knew there was one called jealousy in there, and it was actually the jealous jellyfish.
Because they're all different animals. It makes it awesome.
So from these cards, jealousy is simply a feeling of unhappiness or anger because someone has something that you want.
So really simple. I mean, a kid could understand that. Adults can understand that. And maybe we add on to that with a Webster's definition to add some more detail.
Our favorite Webster's is the 1828 version because, wow.
It's
you
just,
look back and
detailed.
You read how things are described, you literally think we must be so dumb.
Yeah, language has been so simplified now.
Nowadays, it's like you look at Webster's now, it's like, wow, we're really dumbing things down. So anyway, from the Webster's 1828 though, and stay with us because jealousy is not just something as simple as you think. As defined here, it's the passion of peculiar uneasiness. Look, already from the beginning, like that's not your typical Webster's definition now, right? Peculiar uneasiness, which arises from the fear that a rival may rob us of the affection of one whom we love, or the suspicion that he has already done it. Or it is the uneasiness which arises from the fear that another does or will enjoy some advantage which we desire for ourselves.
It's interesting how the term uneasiness,
right?
Because that is, and jealousy robs us of our harmony, of our peace. It puts us in a kind of fearful survival state, and we only have so many energy units per day. And so think about how many get drained when you're living in this state of jealousy, of fear, of uneasiness.
You might even say FOMO.
Yeah.
It's like fear of missing out.
That'd be the 2023 definition of it.
Yeah, exactly.
FOMO.
All it says is jealousy, FOMO, with a hashtag.
Right.
So let's give some examples here because this is going to take us to how do you then overcome jealousy? Well, we have to first understand this more. Some examples would be, again, from Webster's in this case, a man's jealousy is excited by the attentions of a rival to his favorite lady.
So interesting the way it's said.
A woman's jealousy is roused by her husband's attention to another woman. Okay. More than that, though, because that's probably where we typically think of jealousy. The candidate for office manifests a jealousy of others who seek the same office. The jealousy of a student is awakened by the apprehension that his fellow will bear away the palm of praise.
Wow,
now, obviously, that's
we don't
not
talk like
how
that
we
anymore.
talk, but okay, let's bring that back now.
Yeah, it's more eloquent.
It is more eloquent. I would say it. You could be sitting in a class, pursuing a degree or a profession, and you discover that a cohort is going to win a sale or get praise or get appreciation
Get a better
or get
score.
acknowledgement or get the raise that you're not going to get. So in short, jealousy is awakened by whatever may exalt others or give them pleasures and advantages which we desire for ourselves. So jealousy is nearly allied to envy, and really before a good is lost, it can feel like we're envious of it. Afterwards, it's obtained by others, then we're jealous. Like the opportunity is now gone.
And I just wanted to add, I know that we're like giving you these definitions both by the otter emotion card for kid and then this old Webster's definition. And it's not just because it's like good to know the definition. It's important that we are able to really identify what we're feeling. And sometimes we don't recognize that it's actually jealousy because a lot of times it shows up as anger. Right? It shows up as I'm angry at this person. They're violating something. I'm pissed at them. I'm frustrated with them. I'm hurt by them. I don't want to talk to that person. So sometimes it can come off as a different emotion, but behind the scenes, jealousy is really what's going on.
And to take it one step further, I think, well, part of the steps is going to be to identify the source of the jealousy, because jealousy, I believe we think of one thing. If you're married to someone and they're talking to someone else
of the
opposite sex, you're jealous. But that's just not exactly it. So we gave you that definition to show you that the source of jealousy needs to be identified. Now, I want to give you a personal example and story for myself. We have not experienced too much jealousy between each other. We have to go back a ways. Maybe there was some in our dating. Maybe you could speak to that.
I've got something to share for sure.
But personally, before we were married, when we were committed with one another, we had started our journey of, well, personal development, but also we started a network marketing business in health and wellness. So at the time, we both had our individual quote unquote businesses, and we were kind of working that in a sense together, being in relationship. Now, I can be honest that I was jealous of you because talking to people, talking about health and wellness, being able to present like options and sort of make a sale and to progress in your business, and the acknowledgement you were getting from our team in a sense came so easily to you. And these were skills I did not innately have. So in a sense, I was jealous of the recognition and the ease in which things were coming to you. So that was a place that there was some jealousy for me. And in dealing with that jealousy, I need to identify what's the actual source. Otherwise, how else can I deal with it? If it's like, oh, I'm jealous, or I just say to you, well, I'm jealous, or you seem that I'm standoffish, or I'm kind of self-sabotaging you, you might be like, well, why are you jealous of me? Like, well, I'm not. I would defend it, right? So in either case, I need to get clear about what is the actual source of my own jealousy, and that was really the only place I could think of for us personally.
Yeah, I think that's a good example. And I think for me, what would be so interesting for all of you who listen, if you had met me like kind of right before Aaron, transitioning into being with him, because I had worked a lot on myself right before that time. Before then, I was an extremely jealous person, in particular with my partner and talking to other women. I mean, to the point where if we were at a gathering and I knew we were all friends, if there was some attractive person that my partner was talking to, it would bring up so much jealousy in me. I really feared them having any friendships with others. I worried about where they were going. Like, these were a lot of times in the college days and the years after, I would be questioning, where are you going and who are you talking to? And I had a lot of, it was linked to insecurity and my not so great relationship to my own worth. And so we won't talk about that a ton in this episode, but I think that's important to acknowledge that in particular, if it is linked to you and your partner and trust. And of course, if they're a trustworthy partner, like with Aaron, I have zero concern about you. Like, you're such a social person. Even when we go out and you talk to another person, you are such a trustworthy person that I have a 0% concern about you ever getting distracted by anyone else, because you're just such an upstanding person. It even makes me tear up, like just the amazing person that you are and how I don't have to worry at all about that. But besides having a trustworthy partner is us also really valuing ourselves and having a high self-esteem and just a good relationship with self, to where, we aren't comparing as much to others, whether that has to do with in a job setting with another parent, and you compare how you're parenting versus them, or with your partner and talking to other people. So I think that self-esteem, self-worth is important to acknowledge.
And it really speaks to the second step here. You have to start to identify what's the source of this jealousy, because it's not just one thing. But before that, there is something you have to do. So we're getting into the steps now. So that's understanding jealousy. This is the steps to overcome it. So first, you really have to express and acknowledge it to your partner. Now, we're going to give you these steps from an ideal perspective. Ideally, in a constructive, healthy marriage that has the communication tools, the honesty, the level of love account, this is how it would go. And we acknowledge that not everyone listening will be here, but this is really the steps. This is where you want to get to. So you need to express it and acknowledge that you feel jealous to your partner. So it might sound like, hey, partner, I noticed that there's this feeling of jealousy that showed up for me, and I'm not blaming you. I don't need you to stop anything right now, but I would just like help talking this out so I can work through this jealousy and not have this be between us.
And the way that's said is really coming from a place of personal recognition. I want to talk through this. I want to work through this. I know this is coming up from me. I'm not putting it on you. I'm not blaming you. So it really is coming from a place of more responsibility and opening up a dialogue, to just be able to process through it together.
So I'm going to go through these steps, and then Jocelyn, you could field the intuitive side of this. So once that happens, then this is where you need to have identified the source. So either do it on your own, or maybe you can do it through this discussion with your partner. So your partner needs to be open enough to this conversation. We're just coming from the angle that we assume you and your partner have this level of communication already available to you. So identifying the source now, because you could realize that, I'm actually feeling jealous of the amount of personal time that you get yourself. And here I am with more roles and responsibilities. So this could show up for, let's say, moms. I think this may have flashed for you potentially. It's like you're doing everything for Sky. Maybe someone listening here is doing so much around the house. And so you're jealous when you look over in the direction of your partner and you see they get to meditate for an hour every morning. They get to relax.
Go to the gym.
Maybe they go golf. Maybe they're sitting on the couch watching TV or a movie at the end of the evening. So that jealousy can actually be, wow, look at what they have, as in personal freedom and personal quality time for themselves, which I don't have, which is a definition of jealousy, wanting something that someone else has that you don't. But then you could also realize that, well, I might also be jealous of the interactions that you're having with, say, social friends or coworkers. And this jealousy could be that you feel left out. So you feel like you're not a part of a group. You don't belong. You don't have the sense of belonging that your partner has. So there's another version of jealousy, right?
That's so true.
Then it could be, well, maybe you're jealous of a partner's success and status that's rising above yours. So maybe this is for a couple that is entrepreneurial, or maybe one is just a high-level executive or has a status, maybe is like an influencer, right? Like we make content and stuff, right? So we've talked with other sort of entrepreneurial couples where one person is getting more notoriety out in the marketplace or out in the social world, and you could be jealous of the amount of attention, the amount of notoriety, the amount of significance or status that your partner is actually getting that you're not.
Can I add one more example on the source?
Yeah.
That would be good.
Well, I also have one more too.
Okay, well, let me add mine and then yours. Okay, a lot of people will bring up, especially when we do like a social media Q&A, their in-laws. And will say something to the effect of, my partner talks, so often to their parents, they're talking to their mom every week or every day. And perhaps not with all situations, right? But with some of them, the jealousy of the relationship that they have with their parents and the deeper source being, I wish my partner would open up to me. They really share so much with their mom, and they talk about their feelings and what they're going through. And I wish they'd open up to me or call me or want to talk to me as much. So that can be an example.
That's a great one. I never thought about that. So you can start to see that there are a few different sources of jealousy, and you have to get to the root if you're actually going to overcome it. So my last one is the one that we probably most associate with jealousy, is that they have a personal relationship with the opposite sex, maybe someone at work, maybe someone that they're texting off hours. So the jealousy is from a fear that you might actually lose your partner to them. So all these being sources, you need to identify either ahead of the conversation, or if you haven't identified them in your conversation with your partner, this is what you want to be discovering. What's the source? Because now you can move to the third step, which is the partner really listening needs to accept and then reassure the partner around the fear or around the source of jealousy. So as a partner now, I might say something like, hey, that makes sense. Like you being jealous of the time that you see I have, and maybe that just comes from overwhelm with the amount of roles and responsibilities you have around the house. So I could see how you would feel that way. So you're completely accepting that they are just feeling that way. Don't blame, don't justify, don't defend. Now you could say something like, well, just so you know, from my perspective, that's not what I intended, but I still see how that affected you that way. What I can say is that, and you're going to now provide assurance for the source of the jealousy that your partner revealed to you.
What would be some examples of that?
Exactly. What I could say is, hey, but what I can say to you is that my success benefits both of us. That's why I do it. Or, hey, you know what? I hear you, and you can come be a part of the group. You can come be a part of the coworkers or the friends that I go out with. I'll introduce you. I'll have you feel like a part of the group. That was for the belonging one, right? You might also say, I truly get all the love, affection, and attention I need from you, and that relationship that you feel jealous about, though has merit and I fully accept it, has nothing to do with our relationship. So whatever the source is, I am providing authentic and real assurance for the fear that you expressed to me.
I think this is great because the phrase, what you resist persists. So if you resist your partner's jealousy and think it doesn't make sense or they shouldn't feel that way, oh, that's just coming from your insecurity, you have nothing to worry about, it will only persist. You have to actually embrace something for it to lose all of its power, for at least to be something where you can talk about it further. So I love what you emphasized about the acceptance and then the reassurance.
So then step 4 is, again, really on the side of the partner listening, and that's to support your partner in their vulnerable reveal or expression to you about their jealousy, and to support them now with action. So as to say, I promise to change blank actions. So again, based on the scenario, you might say, I promise to change and I don't have to go out as much. I won't be a part of that, social group as often, right? Or maybe you say, hey, you can be a part of the social content that I'm making, if that has to do with the status, for example, or I will stop messaging or communicating with that particular person.
And it has to be something you authentically are committing to. This isn't about, oh, okay, fine, I'll stop hanging out with my best friend. We're not telling you that you're supposed to completely cut out people or stop pursuing, a work goal that you have or a hobby. It is about something that you authentically could see how would benefit the partnership and still feels aligned for you. So there is somewhat of a middle ground, something that helps your partner with the jealousy that they're feeling, but also is reasonable to you. And what's also important to note, because I know some of you listening who are on the side of feeling jealous might be like, well, what if my partner is not willing to change anything? What if they won't change any action? And I could have a remark, but anything you would first say, Aaron, like, what if they're resistant? They're not willing to change anything.
Well, I'll let you answer that, because what I wanted to say was, I think a number of the times that this would happen, just going through the expressing it, the identifying the source, and then just reassurance, I think many times would be enough. So on the other times where there needs to be a little more, that's when we need to come up with a supporting action. So now, why don't you just answer your own question? Then if I said, well, I hear you and that makes sense, but I'm not willing to do anything, what are your suggestions?
I mean, I think that's where we have to remember that in a partnership, there is an element of needing some flexibility, because it's not just about you now and what you want and how things work for you. And so an element of flexibility and you being able to bend, not break. So again, we're not asking you to break things that are important to you, to be a person that you don't want to be or isn't authentic to you, but can there be a little bit more flexibility? And so maybe if you're talking to a partner who is seeming resistant to any kind of change in action or behavior with this, just bringing up this element of flexibility and, look, I'm not asking you to break, just a slight bend. Is there some shift, even a slight change that would make me feel as though there is this safety between us, that I am a priority, that you care about me feeling secure within the partnership.
My last thing on that would be to just provide an alternative. You can't just be like, no, I'm not willing to do anything, because that would be a little bit sketchy. I would think that you don't prioritize your partner. You don't care about helping them overcome the jealousy. I mean, there's things to do personally, but if I'm interested in helping you out and I prioritize you over my own social status or me messaging a random person, like if I'm not actually willing to stop messaging a random person because it's bringing up jealousy or fear for you, it's like, that's actually, I don't want to say a red flag, but that's certainly...
It's a red flag. Well, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, that is one where there's certain changes in behavior that are just straight up appropriate, right? Like if there's a boundary being crossed, it's obvious, okay, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't be messaging that person. And that knowing what the boundaries are within the partnership. So I think it depends, of course, on the situation.
Yeah. So let's move to just the last step. And this one, a little bit more advanced. So if you just wanted to take these 4 that we talked about, that's great. It's going to go a long way in understanding and overcoming jealousy that you feel. But the last one is an interesting one because it's to focus on the new desire. Now, what do I mean? Well, all emotions are signals. So jealousy is an emotion. So ergo, it's also a signal. Well, a signal of what? It is, even by definition, it's when you want something but don't have it, right? But think about that in the 2 parts. Something you want, but then you don't have it, or it's perceived that you don't have it. The problem is that most people focus on the not having of it. And then you just play that tape in your mind. I'm not going to get it. I'm not valuable enough. You just play this circle in your mind about the not getting it. But what was actually there, this emotion of jealousy, was there was something that you want. So focus on that. What is this showing me that I do want? And then set out a plan of action to acquire maybe the skills or the tools to go out and actually achieve what you want. So jealousy is showing you that there's something that you want. And there's also the philosophy that if you can desire something, that in this life, it means that you're here and can develop the skills to acquire it, to achieve it, to experience it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So use the jealousy now to get clarity on what is it that you want. Don't focus on the not having of it. Set out your plan, take actions, develop yourself, and go out and see it. This was just showing you something you really wanted, and it was maybe a part of the person you were always meant to become.
Yes, I love that, because linking back to the journey that I shared about my jealousy and definitely in relationship with, other women, was I focused on my self-esteem. I focused on my love of myself, my confidence, who I wanted to be, becoming a better person, becoming a more magnetic person. And yeah, that's where I put my focus. And it led to me nailing a great partner here, locking you in.
Before that, you won a fitness competition,
That's
actually.
true. I did. I won a fitness competition, which I never thought I would have done.
You retired a nursing job with an entrepreneurial journey. You got this, fine specimen. I mean, if you would have let that jealousy beat you down and keep on focusing on what you didn't have, look at all the things you would have missed out on.
That's so true.
You wouldn't have had a baby Sky.
That's true. And I can't imagine life without that. So, I mean, this is great. And these are important steps to practice, to implement. As always, we say with our episodes, don't just listen and then do nothing with it. Maybe re-listen to the steps that we provided for you to overcome jealousy, implement them, practice them. And if more support is needed, then make sure you dive into our resources outside of the podcast. If you haven't visited our website and explored all the different varying resources, from our Making Up and Moving Forward guide to sessions, to web classes, to courses, we have additional resources for you. And make sure you go to meetthefreemans.com, and you're going to see a lot of our different resources there and different ways of getting support. And also, it would mean so much if you would add a 5-star review on whichever platform that you're listening on. If this feels like a valuable podcast, that's a great way for us to get this message out there. But we really hope you enjoyed this episode. And also, just a sneak peek, we have a new guide that will be coming. Since the Making Up and Moving Forward guide has been so popular, every day couples are getting this, and we're getting amazing feedback and messages with it. We are coming out with a new guide that's all about de-escalation in times of conflict. So more to come. Stay tuned. You're going to be loving that new guide. But we're so glad you're here, and make sure you tune into the next episode. We'll talk to you very soon.